Attention wrestling fans, you're now about to listen to the man coming down the aisle from the main streets of South Elgin, Illinois, with a microphone in his hand and questions on his mind. This is What Do You Say with DDJ.
Welcome, everyone, to the spectacular 35th episode of What Do You Say with DDJ. As always, I am your host, DDJ. First off, for those of you who have been listening to me since the very first episode way back in August, thank you so much. For those of you who are listening to me for the first time, thank you very much. And for those of you who are listening to me for sometime between the first time and the 35th time, thank you so much. Anybody who takes the time to listen to an episode of this show, I truly appreciate it. And just also let you know, this is the official kickoff for WrestleMania week as part for the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad. A lot of great stuff coming up for you this week, not only on in the Pod Squad, but also in the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook group. So guys and gals, please, if you're already not a member, go join the Pro Wrestling Junkies Facebook group and get in on all the fun we have planned. So I'm going to get right to it. Joining me for this, the 35th episode spectacular, is former Impact Wrestling superstar and current member of the National Wrestling Alliance. He was originally known as All Day, but he wanted me to, during the interview, he wanted to be known as the one true All Day Marshe Rockett. So sit back, relax, get comfy, grab your favorite cold beverage, grab a snack, get warm underneath a nice cozy blanket, and enjoy episode 35 of What Do You Say with DDJ? And my guest this week, the one true All Day, Marshe Rockett.
This is Rockstar Johnny Nye, and you're listening to What Do You Say with DDJ? And make sure you catch the newest episode featuring yours truly. What other reason could you possibly need to tune in outside of the fact that I'm on it? I mean, come on, people. And for those of you who don't tune in, be gone.
Alrighty then, back here for the 35th spectacular episode of What Do You Say with DDJ, and joining me on this very special WrestleMania week episode is it was once known as All Day, but because there are a lot of people out there who like to copycat and not come up with something original, he informed me shortly before I hit the record button that he would like to be referred to as the one true All Day. That would be former Impact Wrestling and current member of the National Wrestling Alliance, the one true All Day Marshe Rockett. Marshe, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing wonderful, and I love that introduction.
Man, you know what? Hearing that from someone that I watch on TV liking something I did, I consider it an honor, and I thank you for that. And I also thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this interview with me.
No problem. I'm always happy to come on and share stories and just interact with new people. It's always a fun. Always fun.
It is fun. It's actually one of my favorite things I've really gotten to enjoy about doing this show is getting to know, the men behind the characters. And I definitely look forward to this. So my first question, and this is something I ask every single guest I have on this show, is Marshe, how did you discover professional wrestling?
Well, like most guys and girls, I discovered pro wrestling through backyard wrestling. I think I always refer to myself as like a late bloomer, because usually when you hear stories, people say like, "Oh, I've always wanted to be a wrestler when I was like 5 or 6," and I was like, I was not at that point. I was a 10 when I started to actually, get a love for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, growing up, like just watching on TV, you get together with a couple of your friends that also have an interest in it, and just like pick and choose where you want to go and do like wrestling shows and stuff like that. That your version of wrestling shows. I mean, obviously we didn't have a ring set up, so it's gonna sound ridiculous, but we would take. I remember very, very vividly. We would take like 4 cones that we had, and we would set them up like the 4 corners of like the ring, and we would just like pretend to like go and hit the ropes or use the turnbuckles and everything. It was very. At the time, it was very, very creative. Like to see like all of us out there just bouncing off of like pretend ropes and everything like that. Like we probably look weird to the outside world, but to us, man, it was superstardom at its best. So
that's awesome. And that's so obviously doing my research, I discovered that you were born actually in you're from the Chicago area. Most specifically, you were born in Normal, Illinois, which is kind of actually down by where my brother lives. He's actually not too far from there now. So what did you, when you first started watching wrestling on TV, what was on the TV? What did you have available to you?
Well, I actually started watching wrestling when I got to Chicago. Like I was born, but we left Normal when I was like very, very young. So I wasn't at Normal at the whole time, but when I got to Chicago and eventually to the suburbs, I came in to watching wrestling at the start of like the Attitude and WCW era where it was like the Monday Night Wars, which was all for me because I was the type that was like always flipping through the channels and say like, okay, which match is good on over here and which match is good on over there. So and for I think a good majority of the time for those 82 or 83 weeks that WCW, reigned supreme with ratings. Like I was kind of like a WCW guy because, they had the Kevin Nash, they had the Scott Hall, the NWO, the Bret Hart, the Chris Benoit at the time. Like they had some good stuff over there, man. Like I was just like, dude, this is some awesome, hard hitting stuff. And for like the WWF at the time, I was just like, it was kind of cool. But what turned for me was, of course, seeing the Stone Colds, the Rock, and the Shawn Michaels. And once I started to see those guys, man, I was just like, oh, I gotta be a WWE type. I gotta go with them, man, because they were just killing it after that. Like, especially like Stone Cold and the Rock. Like those are my 2 right there, man.
Well, that actually answered my next question. I was going to ask you who are some of your favorites, but you mentioned Stone Cold and The Rock and stuff. Was there anybody else that really kind of helped hook you, helped you take the, the bait and, basically kind of dive into this rabbit hole that we like to call professional wrestling fandom besides Austin and The Rock?
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge Undertaker. I mean, just like, everybody knows that lineage, like 30 plus years. I mean, just his character and everything was just like, wow. So Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker I was really into Shawn Michaels and DX, like all of their comical stunts and everything. I loved Edge. As of now, like everybody who probably knows me and who's been following my career probably sees a correlation between a little bit of Randy Orton mixed in my type of style. So Orton was definitely in there. But yeah, man, for those, those that I mentioned, like those are the ones that like really like hooked me in. And I was just like, anytime they were involved in something, I was like, I gotta see it. I gotta watch it,
Right.
But
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, but it was like I will say now my watching of wrestling is like a little bit different because I just now enjoy like the styles and for the people's the story that they have behind their characters, or if they're just being themselves, like that kind of draws me in still just as a fan. So
right. So one of the things that just kind of popped in my head as you were discussing some of the guys, you mentioned Edge. Now, like I said, this is dropping. This will be out the Monday before WrestleMania. So obviously, you know, we're talking about like less than a week away from Edge's, you know, big match against Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. What are your thoughts on just, I mean, how amazing is Edge for basically to come back from what he came back from, you know, made his surprise return at last year's Royal Rumble, you know, went on to have just an amazing, you know, last man standing match at last year's WrestleMania in front of no crowd. And then he would go on to have what some people may have called the greatest wrestling match of all time, you know, and unfortunately that's when he suffered his injury and then, you know, returned at this year's Rumble. Like being an edge head, like how cool was it? And like, what are your thoughts on just Edge as just his comeback? I mean, I it's a lot of it's unreal, it's surreal in my opinion and stuff. I kind of wanted to get your take on it, just being a professional wrestler and being an Edge fan.
Oh, absolutely. I honestly thought it was huge. I mean, I know, like, you know, WWE covers it so much. I mean, so much that they try to like run it down people's throats. But just for me, like, I was blown away because, you know, I was watching the night that he had to come out and unfortunately announced that he was like retiring, or he was forced to retire and like, you know, relinquish the championship and everything. Because even watching it, well, at that point, his last championship match, I was watching it and I was just like, something's off, you know, and I was looking at his movements and stuff like that, and it just wasn't the same Edge that you've seen over the years. So then I was just like, well, maybe he just got hurt, you know, but you just didn't know the extent of the injury. And then that's when the news came out about the neck, and you know, from personal experience of just hearing stories, like that's one thing that's always in the back of my mind is neck injuries. I've been fortunate enough to get advice and talk to some of the wisest people in the business, and one thing that they always warn or try to warn young talent about is the seriousness of, like, you know, your neck injuries and like some of the falls and the bumps that you're taking. A lot of it revolves around the neck. And so I just always try to keep that in the back of my head, you know, like, hey, above everything else, like, make sure you're taking care of your neck, like, you know, stretches and all this type of, you know, preventative care, so that we don't have to have that that choice to be forced into retirement. So when he came out and he said that, of course, I was like super sad about it. You know, I was like, God, that sucks. You know, it's one thing to have to retire, but to be forced into it, it's you know, it's the worst feeling in the world. Right. And so when he came back, you know, I was happy. I was ecstatic. You know, I kind of thought, I was just like, oh, is this like a one-off? Because, you know, you just weren't sure. But see how he has come back from everything, you know, and is delivering like nonstop, like, holy, I mean, you know, what more can you like say, dude? Like that man is a machine. Like, you know, there's very few people that you could look at and say like, oh, that guy, you know, that guy's tough, and, you know, but Edge is a machine, dude. And like, that is commitment, you know? Absolutely. So I would just like him going into WrestleMania right now. I'm huge into Daniel Bryan, but I'm really pulling for like Edge to come back, because that would just be something incredible. And I think when people see that, I think it's going to send more of a message than people realize of, you know, of when people get down and out, or they think that things aren't going their way, or things aren't never going to be the way that they used to. I think it's going to send a loud, clear message to people saying like, hey, you may be down, but you don't have to stay that way. If you work your ass off, you know, you can come back, and even 10 times better. Because I mean, if you see him now, even compared to I think he looks better now than he did even years before the injury.
Absolutely.
You know, he's like shredded and chiseled out. I was like, holy shit. Like, like, yeah. Who is this guy, you know? But so yeah, I think that's gonna really like be a fun match to watch. I can't wait to see it. So
Yeah, me too. WrestleMania is actually looking like a pretty decent, card. Actually, both nights, a lot of, in that. So kind of going back to you here. So we're talking, late '90s, early 2000s. Was when you kind of like you became a wrestling fan. When did you decide that this was something that you wanted to do? Like you wanted to start making a career out of it?
I didn't come to that conclusion until I was getting ready to like graduate high school.
Okay.
So, and it really wasn't like my decision. It was like my dad kind of like influenced me because growing up, my dad would always ask me, my brothers and sister, hey, he was like, what do you guys where do you guys see yourself in future wise? Because he always wanted us to have in the back of our heads, like, what's the goal? Okay, we're not just here just to be here. We don't just go to high school, just go to high school. We don't just go to college, just go to college. He was like, what's the end goal? And for me, it was always about something in entertainment. Acting, modeling, just something. I didn't have a foregone conclusion of what it really was going to be, but I was like, man, Dad, I want to do this. So at the time, my dad is, I'm watching SummerSlam. I'm watching the match between Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio. Awesome match, by the way. Still one of my favorites. Still one of my favorites today. But so I'm watching that match, and my dad walks in, and he's doing the same spiel that he's always doing, is asking me about my future. And I'm just like, Dad, I'm trying to watch this match, bro. I'm invested in this thing, man. So, but he was just like, well, let me just ask you real quick while they're plugging like something else, like a commercial or something. I was like, all right, you got about, I think, maybe a minute and 30 seconds. So he goes on, and he's just like, hey, this randomly popped in my head, but you always tell me that you want to do something in entertainment. Have you ever thought about doing this? Because you show a hell of a lot of interest in wrestling. And I was just like, I just do that with my friends and everything. Like, I probably couldn't do a career out of this. And he was just, well, give us some thought. And so upon doing that, like that literally bugged the hell out of me until like the graduation. Like I was just like, it was one of those things that I, just going to bed at night, I was thinking about it. Waking up, I was thinking about it. Like, because I knew where I wanted to go to college, because it was like the art school downtown. I was just like, so I thought about it day in, day out, all day, if you will. And so I was just like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what happens. I'm one of those people, I hate the words what if.
Right.
I never want to have to utter those words, what if I can help it, because I'm just like, well, what if I was destined for it, but I just didn't pursue it or something. So once I did the research, I found the wrestling school of Windy City Pro Wrestling at the time.
Okay.
My dad took me down to the studio to see the studio, to talk to the owner, and sort of get like a good vibe and intel of like what all goes into it, like how much it's going to be, the training, all the stuff that that will come along with it. So once we did all of that, in fact, I actually got to see a lot of the superstars I get to wrestle with now, like the Steve Bozes, and that was the night that I actually met Acid Jazz,
Okay.
who would ultimately become like one of my best friends ever. But we didn't know it at the time. I was just like, he was just coming back and from an injury, and then he was also going to school at the same time too. So he also helped my dad because, parents being parents, they were just like, if you're going to do this, you still got to keep up with your schooling too. And he was like, I don't know how this is going to work. So then Acid Jazz kind of helped with that. But no, me and him, we went back, we talked about it, and he was like, well, how do you feel? I said, I feel pretty good about it. I liked what they all had to say. I think I want to give it a shot. I feel like I need to do this just because I don't want to look back and say, you know, what if?
Right.
So once once we had the talk, we got everything laid out with like schools and stuff like that. I immediately started training and just like really like busting hump and just trying to showing up to practice every day, trying to make sure that I was going to be in the best shape and just give my all, because I wasn't coming into this like half-ass. Like I wanted to go full throttle and just deliver. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I remember training every day for like I think 6 months. It took me to fully master a lot of like the techniques and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was that was the start of my run, man.
Cool. So who were some of the guys that you trained under that along the way?
So I trained over. I had mentioned like Steve Boz and
Okay.
Jazz. Another one was Willie DeBon Richardson,
Yep.
Hunter Payne, Austin Roberts. To some of the wrestling fans that are going to probably watch this, they're going to be like, "Who are these guys?" You know.
Mhm.
But the owner of the Windy City Pro Wrestling was, of course, Sam DeSuro.
Mhm.
But through these men, I owe my career to, because they took me in and they gave me a pretty good foundation of like where a good step off point. The training
Mhm.
was excellent. Like I don't think I would be half the superstar that I am now without having that firm foundation, because I know there's a lot of wrestling schools out there that they will show you, but I don't think they do the amount of teaching. Uh, they don't show you everything that I think young talent should know heading in. And
Mhm.
man, I'm so grateful for that training, dude, because it really grounded me, and it really made me into the person that I am today. So
That's awesome. So some of the promotions, again, doing just kind of looking, over your career, doing some research online. You mentioned Windy City Pro Wrestling, but also you mentioned about competing with companies such as Chikara, or at least I found out, IWA Mid South, Dreamwave, and Resistance Pro Wrestling. What was like your what were like some of the places like you really enjoyed working at? Like, where do you feel like you got the most?
it's funny because all of those places played an intricate part of like getting uh myself and like the Soul Touchers brand out.
Mhm.
I think where it all started for me was because actually the first place I ever wrestled outside of like Windy City was Stars and Stripes Pro Wrestling up in Wisconsin. Or
Okay.
um so they helped provide another avenue, and like again just honing my crafts for them, and then ultimately other companies seeing my work there would then they IWA Mid South would see my work with them, and then so would Elite Pro Wrestling. um would just like so each one was like a domino effect, and each one was just like an intricate part. If I had to pick, what's so hard. It's so hard because IWA Mid South, without IWA Mid South, like we, myself and like the rest of the Soul Touchers, we wouldn't be in Chicago, because Mike Quackenbush actually was at a show that we were doing, and after our match, he he met us outside and he was talking to us about like the King of Trios, which
Right.
is, that was 2008 that he invited us over to, and the 2008 King of Trios really put us like on the map as a formidable tag team, because that's when everybody really like took notice, because it was like a who's who just out there, that we were like that we were wrestling. And so when everybody saw us coming out there doing the Soldier Boy, which was our stick before our entrance, and when people saw that, they were just like, "Holy cow! Look at these guys!" You know what I mean? Like it was, you couldn't help but to dance. Like
right.
they were just like, "Oh man, I love these guys." The whole small, medium, large type thing that we had going on. So we brought it was just like super fun. So I like to say, like, every place that I've been fortunate enough to work for has just been awesome. It's been an awesome experience, and it's one that I cherish. Like, each one has a cherishable memory, so it's kind of hard to like choose.
Right. Oh, I like what you had to say there. So, and I'm sure my audience who's either watching this on YouTube or who'll be listening to this wherever you get your podcast from will really get a kick out of that as well too. You talk about the Soul Touches, and I've had a few members of that group on my show before, and one person that I kind of wanted to get your take on, who's someone that's actually become a pretty good friend of mine just throughout doing this show and just talking to him on Facebook and stuff, is C Red. Talk to me about your experience with him.
C Red, man, he's awesome, man. So starting off, I was sort of just like I was like in another tag team with we called ourselves like the Special Forces. Isaiah Velasquez, who's now known as the Definition. And then there's it was Corporal Rossi, who's now known as, he's Marco Rossi, the elite Marco Rossi, like for CSW. So after I left that group, I was sort of like in a limbo, because it was like really like no direction for me. And then C Red was kind of like, well, he was just coming back. And he first started off, wanting to come back as a wrestler, but then he was like, well, he wanted to try his hand as a manager.
Okay.
He wanted to manage sort of like he wanted to take like a whole new path of like manager. Like, obviously he reached out to Willie the Bomb, and, they wanted to do like something different. And, so of course, because I was up and coming and I showed promise, he was like, all right, we'll take on Marshe too. So that was like the initial start, man. But I've been up and down the roads with many roads and skies with Red for a long, long time now. And, he's always like watched out for me, and, another guy who kind of kept me grounded, and just, I like what he's doing. Like, now that it seems like we've sort of like gone on like two different paths, like we still stay in contact and everything like that. But he's doing things with like the what is it, the ARC with
the ARC.
Yeah, the ARC. So he's now just taking young talent and he's just molding them, and he's just he's doing great things. He's doing great things with them. So but yeah, like I took a lot of like the tools that he was like using and applied it to my own. And I always felt like we had this like Rocky and Mickey type of.
Oh, that's great! I love those movies. I love that duo.
That's that's kind of like how I felt, because it was like even coming up, like it was like he was grooming me. Like, I couldn't stand on my own just yet, but he was grooming me to the point where eventually, because he wasn't going to manage me forever, so he wanted to make sure that when he wasn't, I would be able to kind of hold my own and I'd be okay. And so like that was kind of like what brought us together. I mean, I don't know if he felt that way. That's how I felt, so I'm just going with it.
Right.
But I always thought we had like a Mickey Rockett thing. Hey, yo, Mick, just like because he was just like, that was just our combo. That was the duo. So
yeah, that's really a good. I said I really enjoy talking to him, and just I always like really hearing your take on him as well too, because Red's a good dude, and nothing but love and everything and stuff. And I'm just glad to see that he's had such a positive impact on your career. So, so one of the things too, I was kind of looking at this and I wanted to talk about, you mentioned also too, wrestling for Resistance Pro Wrestling. And I believe that was the promotion that Billy Corgan started, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. So one of the things here is that, as reading here, is that on November 9th of 2014, you became the RPW heavyweight champion by defeating Josephus, who, many people know him as, the question mark. And, unfortunately, we just recently lost him and stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me more about him, because he's someone I've kind of really wanted to, because I know he's done I've seen him do the stuff, with Aaron Stevens and, the stuff with Tim Storm and, and this was kind of a really neat little thing I found, is that you beat him for the RPW title. Tell me about what it was like winning that championship, what it was like working with Joseph Hudson, and just, your thoughts on him as a person.
Well, Joseph, I mean, he is just he was a really, really good dude, man. Joseph was he had that whole Bruiser Brody.
Right, okay, yeah.
The whole Bruiser Brody type thing. Like he looked savage, he looked like like don't talk to me type deal. And in fact, when I first met Josephus, that's the vibe that I got from him. I was just like, oh dude, like I don't want to like piss him off. Just going up there, because I wanted to ask questions. That's one of my things that I like to do in any new locker room. If I see some individual that could offer some solid advice, and like I just like I like to ask questions, because that's the only way you're going to learn, and that's the only way you're going to be wiser for the future. So, but he was one that I was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to approach him and ask a question. He turns around, he's like, he's like, what are you doing, kid? But he turned out like Joseph was a really, really, he was a really cool dude, man. Like he had, I love every story he ever told me. He just always had great and nice things to say about me. I mean, he would put me over, any chance he got, and he was awesome to wrestle with. I think leading up to the match, I think we've wrestled like once or twice before.
Okay.
After every match, like he, I'll never forget. He would always say, "Man, you are a bona fide stud out there." He sat up there and he was like, he's like, I tried pushing you to your limits and you delivered every time. And so it was that I of course was always appreciative of that, because he had already, at that point, he had already been with Resistance, and had the championship, and he was seen as the guy. So to get the praise from the guy who's the face of the company, I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I'm, at least now I know I'm on the right path. And so ultimately, when we had the championship match, where I challenged him for the heavyweight title, and I eventually went on to beat him for it. He was obviously one of the first people that I came up to foremost thank him for the match. And thank you and thank him for all of the advice he gave me like along the way. And just yet again, he was just like, no man, you deserve it. You put in the work, you worked your ass off. he was like, man, I'm so happy. He was happy for me,
That's awesome.
and he was just like, take what you learned in these, this experience, and then, and just be the best, wrestler and just all around person that you can be. And so, I mean, even after like he and I left there, and there were times like anytime we would like meet or like talk to one another, like it was always fun, man. And I enjoyed what he was doing with Billy, like when he went on with like Aaron Stevens, and he became like the question mark. Like it was always fun, man. He was always fun. He's just it still hurts. It still kind of feels surreal that he's gone,
right?
Because it it's just one of those things. Like 1 minute he's here, and now it's like he's not. So you can't. I still can't wrap my head around it.
Right.
So I certainly miss him. But I know that even now he's like looking down over everybody. He's just like, hey, everything's going to be okay, and still just be the best person that you can be. And I think that was the best message he can send, not just by his words but by his actions. So
it's really good. So, a lot of stories I've read about him online are pretty much in line with what you said. So it's just really good to kind of get that perspective as well too. So one of the things I kind of want to fast forward a little bit, and then I'm going to kind of backtrack because we're talking about Josephus here. What were your thoughts on the tribute that they did, the NWA did for him at the end of the Back for the Attack pay-per-view?
I absolutely loved it. I wish I could have been out there with them, but I understand respectively.
Right.
No, I loved it. I thought it was an awesome way to pay tribute to such a great person. And just the amount of, well, first off, to give credit to the talent, because when you do things like that, and there's already so much emotion leading into like a big pay-per-view, but to have that in the back of your mind, like it's not just to entertain, it's to pay tribute to somebody who you grown to care and love for.
Right.
And now that person is gone. So to have to go out there and try to muster and put on like a happy face, you know what I'm saying, with such unfortunate turn of events, it's not the easiest thing to do. And I felt like from top to bottom, that whole card delivered. It was just phenomenal. And and I think they really gave the tribute to Joseph the way it should have been. So I certainly was thrilled by it, and talking to other people and talking to other fans and people who watched the pay-per-view, like they loved it. So kudos to them, man, because that was awesome. Again, it was sad to see that it had to be of those terms, but I think they delivered huge. So
yeah, I got a chance to watch most of that pay-per-view, and 100% agree. It was very nice, very touching. Absolutely loved it. So going back a little bit to Resistance Pro Wrestling again, which again, those who may not know, that was a promotion that was run by the current head of the NWA, Billy Corgan. What's Billy like as a boss?
Billy's cool, man. I love Billy. Billy has a unique take on the business, and one that up until meeting Billy, I hadn't actually foreseen. But
Okay.
getting to work with Billy and getting to like, he has a unique way of telling stories,
Mhm.
and I think with him, that's what he wants the most. He wants people to learn more of. He wants people to be more invested in the stories and not just what is being portrayed in the ring. And
Mhm.
I've always loved that about Billy because it's something that is sort of becoming like a lost art, I feel. Because
Okay.
yeah, you go out there, you see the wrestling moves, but at the end of the day, did it have like a unique story? You know, uh, the story of like I mean, even now for like the what drew me in as for like the WCW versus WWE with the Monday Night Wars, I was like, why did I watch WCW? Well, they had the better stories for 82, 83 weeks, you know.
Mhm.
And then once WWE started getting hot with their stories, like that's when you're just like, oh, you know, I'm going to watch them now because I'm invested in what stories they're telling. So Billy has, I think, a firm hand on that uniqueness of telling an individual story, and then people the way that it's told, you can't help but to get invested in it.
Mhm.
So I think what he's doing with NWA is phenomenal because I mean, again, we were just talking about Joseph, like the question mark, you know.
Mhm.
At first, you're just like, well, who is this guy? Why is he coming out there, and why is he doing this? And then as weeks go on, as the shows go on, and you start to watch, like you can't help but to fall in love with that character.
Absolutely.
You become invested, and you're just like you're not even worried about the wrestling. You want to know the story.
Mhm.
So Billy has a knack for uh for that type of stuff, and I think he's done a phenomenal job with the NWA and just um, yeah.
So we're going to get into the NWA a little bit later on in this interview, but I kind of want to talk about another promotion that Billy was involved with for some time, and that would be TNA / Impact Wrestling, which you spent
Yeah.
some time there. And yeah, just tell me how the whole your journey to Impact, like how did that come about?
Well, actually, it's kind of like I feel like fate had played its hand in that. So actually, I was just coming off of a WWE tryout. I think
Oh,
it was
okay.
I think it was my third tryout with them. It was like at the what was it, the Arnold Classic? It was my second time going out to like Columbus, Ohio, and being at
Okay.
Arnold Classic. And of course, as all WWE tryouts go, they try to push you to your limits, push you to your breaking points just to see if you break. But
Mhm.
I honestly felt like I delivered. I got great feedback from a lot of the people that you want to impress, and I thought then that that was going to be my shot, you know. Uh,
Mhm.
and then of course, like some weeks go by, you're just waiting, like, what's the hold up, or like, what what initially the answer is going to be. And unfortunately, um, I was given the no. Um, wasn't too thrilled about it, and then I just asked for like some feedback, and then it wasn't I kind of equated like it was the same generic stuff that I always do. It's like, no, it's not your skills, kid. It's not, it's not you. It's just that we're looking at new directions and everything like that. And that's okay. So I gotta say, for most, that was probably like the darkest or saddest part of my career, I would say. Like,
Okay.
I was just like super down, man. Um, because even my wife was just like, are you like, she would ask me several times, are you okay? I just felt unmotivated.
Mhm.
I I didn't really stop going to the gym, but I was just like, the motivation just wasn't there as it was like going into that tryout, and I was just like, oh man, like this one hurts. This one stings. So as going back to the old fate thing, as fate would have it, like I think Billy, I got a call from Billy. What was it, like 2 or 3 days after I got my answer from WWE, and that was when at the time he was like, hey, he's finding out what's going on. I of course told him about what just happened with me with WWE and the tryout. He's like, oh well, I've got some news for you. Would you like to try out for Impact? And I was just like, oh, really? At first I was like shocked. Like, he was just like, yeah, he showed some old footage to, to the people over at Impact, and they loved what they saw. And he was just like, hey, why don't you come down, and do a tryout for Impact and see where that leads. So after agreeing upon that, I got my ass up, got back into the gym, and found that motivation. And at this point, I'm just thinking like, I'm still reeling from that no. Like,
right.
I'm just like, I can't. It's one of the things I can't deal with another no. I just can't. So in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I'm just gonna go out there, F it, have fun. What happens? What else could you do? Here I am putting in all this work, and I thought I killed it over there, and apparently it was, it was what it was. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna have fun with this one, and I did. I had a blast, man. That was awesome, and it was definitely needed. And then as fate would have it, like right after this, not less than, I want to say 5 minutes after my tryout, man, I was already being offered a contract.
Wow.
Which was huge. They were just like, hey, we don't need to see anymore. He was like, just once you get dressed and towel off, like we come see us. And so went back, and there it was sitting on the desk, and I was blown away. It was like hard not to like get emotional, and like tears starting to set in my face. I'm just like, holy, like, are you serious right now? I kept thinking that somebody was playing a joke on me, like it would have been a cruel, sick joke. But I kept thinking like the other shoe to drop, but it never did. And like Billy, I think Billy came over, and he like shook my hand, and he was just like, well, like, he just need to say 2 words for me. It's like, well done, because he of course talked me up, and it made me feel good because I felt like I did him justice, because he's saying, you got to watch this kid, you got to watch what he can do,
right?
Me go out there, do what I do, and him come back and like just shaking his head like, well done, so it was awesome.
So one of the things that, like, when I first, this is coming into when I saw you on my TV for the first time. You did a lot of work primarily in the X Division and stuff, and I believe you worked with and correct me if I'm wrong, I know they put you with I think it was Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Trevor Lee. I love what he's doing as Cameron Grimes right now. He's actually like one of my favorites to watch and stuff.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody works with someone that I'm a real huge fan of, and not saying I'm a huge fan of yours too, so I let that get lost here in the shuffle. But I have to ask, because Trevor Lee is, like I said, he's one of my favorites. I've always thoroughly entertained by what he does. What was it like working with Trevor Lee?
Those guys were fun, man. Because of course, with Shane Helms being like our manager, like,
yes,
I love the stuff that we were doing, man. It was awesome, because I love how I'm always placed in like these unique factions, or like how each person brings an individual take to the table, and of course, Trevor Lee, just like, he was, dude, he was so awesome. Like, I was in awe, like, of just like, watching his work. And of course, Andrew Everett.
Yes.
The flips he was like, doing and everything. And I was just like, oh man, where am I going to like, how am I going to be able to like match and like, because Trevor Lee kind of had that like ground and pound strike force type stuff. And Andrew Everett had like, the flips and everything. As I was like, where can I find myself? So, Shane was kind of just like, well, you're the big man. And like, you can still do all like these flying and stuff like that. And he was right. Like, he was like, don't just try to typecast yourself as just the big guy. He's like, no, you still do what you're going to do. And we're just going to combine it and then just make it all, we're just going to make it all work, And it was so much fun being with those guys, because up until that point, I think a majority of my career at that point was like strictly babyface. So like now this was like, okay, now we get to see the dark side of Marshe just a little bit. And so that was always fun, especially playing it with them. So yeah, man, they were super cool. Like I love him doing this Grimes thing. It's like it's so Trevor. It's like, seeing how he was then, it's like it's totally him. So I'm glad he's being able to be him. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So also too, you had a match for the X Division title once against DJZ, who's now known as Joaquin Wilde. Again, DJZ, Joaquin Wilde, whatever you want to call him, another phenomenal talent. What was it? What was it like working with him?
It was cool. It was super fun. It was like, because we've wrestled a few times on the indies and various other places, so it was now being able to do it like on the main stage for the X Division Championship was just the icing on the cake.
Right.
But even if things that could have been like our 100th time wrestling, but even so, like I was still learning like new cool stuff. And even he was like offering like advice and takes and stuff like that. But being able to do it like on a grander stage and national television and stuff like that was something spectacular. Should have beat him for the X Division Championship, but that's another maybe down the road, maybe some other championship. We'll find each other in the ring again, and we'll wrestle, and who knows? Maybe I'll beat him then. But no, I love what he's doing now in NXT. Yeah. Like I was so happy when he got signed. It was so cool to see. But when we got to do our thing for the X Division Championship, it was nothing but good things to say. He was fun to work with.
Yeah. So you were there at Impact for about a year and a half, I if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So was that the amount of time that you were led to believe you were going to be there, or did you think you were going to be there longer, or did you last longer than you thought you were? Was it? I'm trying to think of the right way to ask. It's like what, or was it right about what you expected your time in Impact to be?
I was hoping to be there a little bit longer, but it was certainly a crazy time,
right?
Because when I came in, there was a ton of like behind the scenes transitional stuff happening, So I think that's where I kind of got like lost in the shuffle. Then I'd be found in the shuffle, type stuff like that. So it was at times it was sort of like surreal and weird, because it was like, okay, where do I go now? What happens now? And then when I finally found my niche, it seems like that I can't go that way anymore. So it was like trying to find all these different routes that seemed like they were going to go to lead someplace, but then ultimately, that road gets shut down or that road gets closed, and it's just like, well, crap. So I mean, because like Billy, of course, Billy was there, and then there was like I still to this day I don't know all that was happening behind the scenes, but then of course Billy leaves,
Right.
and so I you gotta wonder like, okay, well, what's gonna happen. It sucked because I loved what Billy was doing, so then I was just like, okay, well now what's gonna happen to me. And then that's when, of course, I got to work with, Al Snow and Shane Helms, and those guys become like they were on Team Rockett, so to speak, and eventually they left, and I was just like, oh crap, now here comes Pope Daddy, and like Pope is he's pushing for me, and he's and so I'm in there, I'm grinding, I'm doing my thing, and then like eventually like the Pope went on to do his thing, and I was just like, crap. So this is just like a reoccurring thing. Then Jeff Jarrett gets in there, and I'm like, all right. So then I guess I quote unquote became a Jeff Jarrett guy, and then eventually like then he left. So
you just couldn't get any luck.
It was just on and on, but like eventually, like it had a little bit of a foundation there, but then like when the company like again was going through all these changes, it seemed like they just didn't have anything for me, and so I was just like, okay, what are we doing? I'm the type of person, I can't sit still.
Right.
I can't. If nothing's happening, I got to go where something it's popping off, or like I just don't want to be. I don't want to be complacent. I don't want to sit just to sit. So I talked to a few people, and I was just like, hey man, what are your thoughts about? I mean, what should I do? Like how can I? Where do I go from here? How do I talk and everything like that? Because it seemed like I had nothing. I was just there. So talking with Impact, and I was just like, hey, let's put a pin in this, and let's just let's come back to it. If it's there, then yeah. If it's not, then but I just couldn't sit, man.
Right.
Some guys always jokingly say like, oh man, I would love to sit there and get paid and stuff. Like I can't. One thing you can't get back, I'm sure you probably heard it too, is you can't get back time. So
absolutely agree with that.
I cannot waste any time. Like if I can be going someplace else and getting my brand out there and raising my star power, I'm gonna have to go and do it, and that was just where I left it. And they said the door's always open, so it wasn't like I left like on like super bad terms, like pointing the fingers or nothing like that. It was just it was strictly like, if you got nothing for me, that's fine. At least now I know. But just to be sitting in there, just looking around, and it's like, well, what about today? It's just no. So we left on good terms, and then I was just like, well, I'm gonna go and have fun, and I'm gonna go and put some more miles under my belt and travel and do all that stuff, and I did. It's been awesome,
So we're talking about here, you're talking about, leaving Impact and, going out there, having fun, putting some more miles on and kind of going further into your journey. Well, recently your journey brought you to the National Wrestling Alliance under, guess who? Billy Corgan. So I remember when I saw the picture, I don't remember where I saw, but I saw a picture of you in the, in the studios where they do the tapings and this stuff. And I got really excited because I was like, I knew I was going to be interviewing you soon. And again, we were talking before earlier today when we were kind of firming up plans and stuff, about how big of a fan I am of the NWA under Billy Corgan. So I got to ask, How did you wind up in the National Wrestling Alliance?
Well, because of course the pandemic, Billy and I we kind of kept in touch, and like when he first started, made his purchase, and he invested into the NWA. We were kind of talking then, but I, of course, with our schedules weren't just matching. Because some people know, some people may not know, but I also I work in the special education.
Oh,
So
cool.
So when I'm not wrestling, currently I'm on spring break now.
So my son and my wife, who's a school bus driver.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I work as in a transition program, so that's working with adults with special needs after they graduate high school.
Awesome.
We typically get them so that we are that bridge between college and workforce route. So for those that are just, instead of them just going, for those that are able to, like, we help them find work, we help give them like sort of like tools to sort of be more independent, to help families out that way, so that they're not just graduating and then that's it, they just go sit at home. And with NWA was at the time, it was just like scheduling wise, it just, we couldn't get on board with it. So it was just still like, indies, honing my craft, and it wasn't until, and then of course pandemic hits, and that shut everything down.
Oh, I bet.
So that was a huge downer, because there was a couple times that we were just like, hey, maybe this time around, and you guys are doing this. There's an interest there, but once COVID hit, man, that put a damper on everything.
Yep.
Because I think I wrestled. Up until the pandemic, I wrestled every year straight. Like there was literally no time off that I ever took. So it was weird just to say now, because everything has shut down, it was weird to just like, what am I? I didn't know what a weekend looked like without wrestling until the pandemic. So yeah. So now that things they're not completely normal, but getting there.
Right.
I of course saw, like, NWA made the announcement they were coming back. And so, like, kind of got into talks and just like, hey, that's cool that you guys are returning and stuff like that. And, I was, of course, invited to come down. And so, not really expecting anything, not, just sort of like, if an opportunity arrives, I'm just going to be more prepared for an opportunity, not asking for handouts or anything like that. Just, if the opportunity's there, I'm going to seize it. I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that I make the most of it. And, getting to wrestle there, was truly, well, one, it's truly an honor, because I mean, it's the NWA, and that it's backed in such a unique way. And again, Billy just having that keen eye for talent and for stories and everything. I really like what they've done over there, and what they continue to do with talent, and just bringing a fresh take to the audience, who are used to like the style of WWE, and who are now used to the style of AEW, and all these different things. And in the wrestling world, when you see something like that, and it just sort of becomes, I don't want to say like redundant, but I mean, kind of,
Right.
you've seen it. If you've seen it once, you've seen it everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right. I got you.
And so, like with NWA, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, I get a fresh take every time, and it's refreshing to see because it's a mix of new school meets old school, but with a new look, if that makes sense.
I got it.
So yeah, when that, when I was invited down and the opportunity came for me to wrestle, Fred, AKA Darren Young, and I got to get in the ring with like Matt Cross, I was like, hell yeah. I mean, so that was just awesome because I mean, those guys are two top tier talent anywhere they go. So it was just, and again, on a national scale, like, I mean, of course it was a pleasure. It was a privilege. I certainly hope there's going to be more.
Me too.
So, but yeah, a ton of fans gave great feedback and they were just like blown away. They're like, "Oh my God!" I jokingly, some fans have said like, "We wish for this."
Yeah,
that was quite on my social media. That was quite the thing. It's like, "Oh, you were wishing for this? You should have, wish for me to get rich and like, win the lotto." Like that, I would love that. You could pray for that for me. I'd be greatly appreciative. So.
Well, you talk about the match you had with Matt Cross and Fred Rosser. I watched that actually because I just purchased the NWA on Fight package, which for those of you who are listening to this, if you want to catch new episodes of NWA Power, it's only $5 a month on Fight TV. So it's a great value for some great action and stuff. Please take advantage of the deal, and you also get access to all the past episodes. I believe they give you some access to some of the old the pay-per-views as well too, and that. But I'll admit I was watching the match earlier this morning and stuff. The match you had with Fred and Matt, and I just smiled because it's like I'm going to get to talk to him about that later. I'm really excited about that, and so I'm glad to be able to talk about you with that. And again, I definitely hope that we see more of you in the NWA. One other thing I want to talk to you about, and then we'll start kind of winding down here in terms of wrestling is you're also part of Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, which is run by my very good friend and former two-time guest of the show, John Bullard. So obviously I asked you your thoughts on Billy as a boss. I'm going to ask you, what's it like working for John?
I love working with John. Again, it's always very, very cool, but it's also refreshing when the promoter not only sees the business aspects, but in the talent aspects, but sees you as the person. It's just not all about the dollar signs. He cares greatly about wanting everybody to be successful, not just the promotion or just trying to line his pockets, but he's trying to make you successful as well. And give you the platform for you to go out there and whether you're with Chicagoland Championship for a month or half a year, like however long you're going to be there, he wants you to give you as much tools as you can for your toolbox to go out there and build something even greater for your brand. It's not just helping him. And so I think what John has done with Chicagoland Championship being on Amazon Prime, Power Forward TV, Fight TV, because we've mentioned with like NWA, I think that's awesome. And the first show was amazing.
Yes, it was.
So I've gotten we got quite the feedback from fans from the triple threat with Chris Logan, myself, and Garrison Creed.
Yep.
I mean, that match alone, people were just blown away. Like that made a statement. and of course I'm not even just, I mean, all the other matches that took place on that card. Like I was, peering through the curtain and I, looking through the show, and everybody brought their A game that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then you here you have it like the next show. We sold out.
Yes.
So here here it is, like now we're selling out, and like people are just like ready for more Chicagoland Championship wrestling, and just itching like tickets in advance. I don't think I think it was like I don't think tickets were out less than like 30 minutes, and like half the show was like already gone. Like tickets are already gone. And people are asking me like, hey, can you get tickets, bro? Can you get tickets and everything? It's like, unfortunately, I talked to John. I was like, do you have any tickets left? He's like, I'm sorry, like that,
right.
So whenever I put on social media or wherever somebody asks me, I'm just like, hey, if as soon as I tell you that there's a show going, like get your tickets right away, because like that's how we're moving fast with it. So, but I love working with John, and I think he's doing amazing. He's already got a good handle on things, and it helps too that him not just being a promoter, but him once being a talent, and him learning all aspects of it. I think that is, that's crucial, because you can't really know how a talent is or how a talent thinks without walking, like, the whole walk a mile in my shoes type deal.
Yep.
So John's been there before, so he knows. So I think he was just like, well, at that point, he was like, well, I would have done this different. And so now here it is. He is doing things different, and it's working. So I think, any fans of Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, we have a lot more in store for them. So just be on the lookout. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, he runs a first-class organization. I was at that very first show, and just the whole experience, even from the moment I got there and was waiting in line, John and I had been talking prior to the show because I had him on, my show a while back, and, got to know him, talk to him. And like I said, I consider him to be a friend and stuff. And I remember meeting him for the first time. He came right over to me, and then my friend Brad, who was there at the first show, will also be at this upcoming show. And, and thanked us for everything we've done, trying to help promote his show and stuff like that. He went out of his way to show us to our seats. He went out of his way to, after the show, asking and throughout the show, what we thought of everything, and it's just really just a top-notch guy. And it's just, I expected to hear nothing less from me when it came to talking about John. And again, I look forward to, this upcoming show in June, even though it, stupid COVID made it wait longer, because it's supposed to be, in 2 weeks essentially. But it is what it is. I know he's excited about it. You're excited about it. I'm sure everybody on the roster is excited about it. So I can't wait and stuff. So one of the last things I want to ask you before I give you some time to plug, like, your upcoming shows and merch and stuff is there's some people out there that may not know this, having talked to you and kind of doing a little bit of research and stuff like that. I know you're a husband and a father and stuff. So I got to ask it, what's it like being a wrestler who's also a father? And I know you said you had a 4-year-old who's almost 5, and then a little one that's about to turn 1. Does your 4-year-old think it's cool to have a daddy that's a pro wrestler?
Oh yeah. What? I think that's most of our play. Like mom does the crafts and like the innocent little little kitty stuff and stuff like that. Dad is the rough houser, like, who gets the boys jacked, and who's like always like, throwing.
Yep, I know the feeling. I'm like,
the rough play.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's cool, man. One of the best jobs in the world is to be it's to say that you're a dad.
Absolutely.
So, of course, when it is time to go and lace up the boots and go to work, so to speak, it's hard because I enjoy family time, so I never want to like. It sucks to leave them for so long, but you still have to sort of you still got to do what you got to do. I give my wife a ton of credit. It's because as much as it's hard for the talent or the wrestlers, it's equally as hard for the spouses. Because
Right.
now they have to take over like the reins. For however long you're gonna be gone or on the road and stuff like that. So I could not do. I could not do all of what I do without her support and her backing me up and taking care of my boys while I can't be there. So I adore her for that. So, but yeah, I love it, man. And like my 4-year-old has not stopped asking me since I've started to now shows have started picked up and start to do more. He has been itching to come see me wrestle again live. And I keep running out of excuses. I just keep saying with the germs, but he's like, he is wise, dude, beyond his years, because he's just like, well, Daddy, I wear a mask. I wear a mask, Daddy, and I come see you wrestle. And I was just like, yeah, you got a good point, but still, buddy, like, because he's definitely a people person. Like, you know how you give him the talk and you say, okay, there's germs, buddy, so we gotta keep this social distance. And he tells you like, sure thing, Daddy. The second he gets in through the door, what is he doing? He's hugging everybody. He's shaking hands. I'm like, what is this kid running for mayor? What is he, the president or something like that? We literally just had this talk.
Yeah.
And he's like looking back at us, and he's like, "What? Look, you're not gonna greet him. You're not gonna shake hands and everything." It's like, dude, there's germs. So I kind of that's what I'm going based off of right now. That's kind of like my escape, like why he can't do shows. It's like, no, because you're gonna lie to me and tell me that you want to tell me everything that I want to hear, and in 5 seconds. I'm the guy wrestling, and you'll walk in there and you'll be the show. Like, hey, what's up, everybody? And slapping hands and just he's getting ready to go and perform, and I'm just there to watch him. So
that's awesome, man. He sounds like one cool little dude. So,
so yeah, love that boy to death. But I swear to God.
I say the same thing about my 5-year-old. I love him to death, but man, sometimes
I don't know. He is.
All right. So before I let you go, and again, thank you so much for doing this. How can people support you by buying your merch, and then also too, where can people go see you?
People can buy my merch. I have a few items on ProWrestlingTees.com. Just type in Marshe Rockett. I'm sure you'll see all of this merch there. Follow me on my social medias on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Again at Marshe Rockett. And because I do all my shows, I also plug all my shows there. If they want to buy more merch on site, there's no better way than to be at those shows. So, as stated earlier, tickets, they're selling fast. So, especially, for, Chicagoland. So, that, of course, we've talked about it. It's going to be June 12th, not April 17th. Sorry, everybody out there.
Ruining my COVID going and ruining my birthday.
It was just me. That when we were told that it wasn't happening April 17th and it had to be pushed back, there was a lot of heartbreak on our end too.
Yep.
So, but that's June 12th. You're not going to want to miss that show. It's going to be a fun time. But for the shows that are coming up, we have Chicago Style Wrestling, April 16th. That's going to be a good one. Heroes and Legends Wrestling out in Fort Wayne, Indiana, April 24th. You can catch me along with a lot of like NWA, former WWE superstars, Impact superstars that are going to be there. That event is already being marked as huge and stellar. I can't wait for that one. We've got May is filling up with a ton of like exciting ones. The one that springs out to mind is May 30th for All Out Pro Wrestling. That's out in Lake Holcomb, where I will be main eventing against ECW original and Impact superstar Rhino. So,
wow.
yeah. Trying to avoid the gore, so I'm actually hitting the gym extra hard because I put out a video not too long, less than 24 hours ago, talking a little bit of trash to the Rhino. So I know he's going to come with full force. So I got to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's for that man.
Yep.
But hit me up on social media. Any other upcoming shows, I'm going to be plugging them all there. But yeah, man, just let's it's go time. So wrestling's back, at least for me. So it's full swing, it's full throttle. Let's go.
All right. Well, Marshe, I want to thank you again for taking the time to do this to me. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the insights and everything and stuff. And I will personally be looking forward to introducing myself to you in person at the CCW show on June 12th. And until then, I'm sure I'll be talking to you online. But if not, thanks again. And thanks again for hopping on with me.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man. This is fun. So we'll have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
This is Tim Storm, former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. You're listening to What Do You Say with DDJ. If you love professional wrestling, this is where you need to get your information. Don't miss this.
All righty then. Once again, thank you to All Day Marshe Rockett. Excuse me, the one true All Day Marshe Rockett for a very fun and entertaining interview. I love the stories. Best of luck to you in the future. And I hope that what we saw in the NWA when you had that great match with Fred Rosser, as well as M-Dog Matt Cross, wasn't your last appearance in the NWA. Hopefully you stick around for a little while. Be sure to follow Marshe on all his social media platforms at Marshe Rockett, and that's Marshe Rockett with 2 T's at the end. Be sure to go to prowrestlingtees.com and get a shirt from Marshe Rockett. He's got a couple of designs on there. Just type in Marshe Rockett in the search field, as well as check out any of some of his upcoming shows. Those dates again are he's going to be appearing for Chicago Style Wrestling on Friday, April 16th. He'll be appearing for Heroes and Legends on April 24th. Warrior Wrestling May 1st, GLCW May 8th, as well as All Out Pro Wrestling on May 30th. And last but definitely not least, be sure to check him out on Saturday night, June 12th, for Chicagoland Championship Wrestling. As of right now, the event is sold out. However, if COVID restrictions ease up in Michigan City, Indiana, more tickets may be made available. If you are unable to get tickets for that show, I believe tickets for the August show are already on sale, and you can go to ChicagolandChampionshipWrestling.com for all ticket information. Before I call it a night, I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of what we've got going on in the Pro Wrestling Junkies group this week. It's a big WrestleMania week. You just got done listening to my interview with Marshe Rockett. Be sure to tune into the Junkyard on Tuesdays, where we review the previous week in wrestling. A lot of fun. Be sure to check out yours truly, DDJ, as he competes against 7 other people in the single elimination style trivia tournament on Tuesday night. The information will be posted on my Facebook page, as well as the Pro Wrestling Junkies page, which is where you can go to watch this monumental occasion. We've got Steven and Brad's Talking Wrestling coming out on Wednesday, with a possible surprise mystery guest. Be sure to check out Brad's Toilet Side Wrestling Talk episodes that drop every week. And then the big show for me is I will appear alongside my co-host of the Junkyard, Jovan and Spencer, as we will invade Such Good Shoot, hosted by my friends Dozer, Shane, and Isaac. And we are going to tear the house down, and poor Brad Marcus is going to be the mediator. Brad, thank you so much for volunteering to do this. Please don't get too scared off by us. And then obviously I will be going live with my boys in the Junkyard Friday night after SmackDown to talk preview and give my predictions for WrestleMania. We'll be going live Saturday and Sunday night after night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania to talk about what happened. So yeah, it's a busy week for yours truly, DDJ, on the Pro Wrestling Junkies Pod Squad Network. And while you're waiting to check out one of those shows, please be sure to go to ProWrestlingTees.com and get a Pro Wrestling Junkie shirt. Get one of our group shirts. Get a shirt of your favorite podcast. I would really appreciate if you bought a What Do You Say with DDJ shirt or a Junkyard shirt. But also be sure to get a Toilet Side Wrestling Talk shirt. Get a Steve's 3 shirt. Get a Junkyard shirt. There's just tons of shirts to go from. Get a Such Good Shoot shirt. Plenty of shirts to choose from. So great designs, support some great shows. And yeah, we would be very appreciative of that. Well, that's all the time I have this week. Once again, thank you so much to Marshe, Rockett for an amazing interview. And I will see you in another week or so with a brand new episode of What Do You Say with DDJ?
If you love professional wrestling and great podcasts, check out What Do You Say with DDJ on Facebook, Twitter, and also on ProWrestlingTees.com. In the search field, just type in DDJ and buy the best professional wrestling podcast shirt around.